Good morning, it's Michael Patrick Shiels, and we are sort of rewinding the way we look at things sometimes these days in America and around the world, including the C word. Not that C word, the Columbus Day word. Is it Columbus Day anymore, and are we allowed to say Columbus Day? Andre DiMino is the executive board member of the Italian-American One Voice Coalition, and he's on our AT&T line. You've seen him on CNN and MSNBC and CBS and NBC and all the national shows to talk about this topic, which seems to come up at this time of year, year after year after year. Good morning, and thank you for being available. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, Michael, and yes, absolutely you can say it's Columbus Day.
1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. We all know the poem. Are they going to ban that from schools or teach that in schools? And why is there such a controversy around what used to be called, or maybe still is, Columbus Day?
Well, it's very interesting that you bring up the schools because that's exactly where this all started. You know, it was Howard Zinn, the self-declared anarchist and Marxist that wanted to destroy our company. And his book started with going after Columbus and falsifying the record of Columbus. And unfortunately, that's still being taught. Even last week, the NEA sent out a newsletter directing people to the Howard Zinn Education Project. So it's just ongoing, this indoctrination.
Who was Christopher Columbus ultimately?
Well, listen, just like the moon shot today, that was like an incredible feat that occurred back then, where he united the continents. He changed the world. And, you know, he didn't come to the United States, but he came to this part of the world. And after his 4 voyages, that's when the great connection between the worlds occurred and really united the whole world. So really, he was a person that changed the world, and he's been recognized as such for that. And all these atrocities they're putting on him are just not true.
He was pretty brave, wasn't he? And that's why it's such a point of pride for Italians?
Well, not only because of that, Michael, but you got to understand, he's an iconic symbol to Italian Americans because he was used by President Harrison in 1892 to apologize for the discrimination, denigration, and even all the lynchings that were occurring of the Italians that migrated into this country. And in 1892, they declared Columbus Day as that apology. So since that time, our ancestors have revered Columbus as that person for our heritage.
I see. So there was an actual sort of political purpose for honoring Columbus by the time what was it, hundreds of years later?
Correct. Yeah, it was the 400th anniversary. And what happened was in 1891, the largest lynching in America occurred in New Orleans of 11 Italian Americans. And there was almost going to be an outbreak of war with Italy. And that's when President Harrison decided in 1892, October 12th, 1892, to declare that day as a reverence to Italians that were in this country. So you see the history goes way back for Italian Americans. But candidly, it's also for Americans themselves. No, I'm a proud Italian American, but I'm an American first. And, Howard Zinn is trying to destroy this country and tried to destroy this country by starting with Columbus. So that's why it's important, not just for Italian Americans, but for all Americans.
Do you think it would be better if it weren't called Columbus Day, if it were called something else?
Well, no, I think that's a capitulation. That's really giving in to the woke cancel culture that's out there. Mm-hmm. They're trying to placate us by saying, well, we'll call it Italian Heritage Day. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, no other ethnicity is told who they can honor or who they can celebrate. And why should Italian Americans be subjected to this? Unfortunately, it's still true that Italian Americans are the last ethnicity that it's okay to bash. You see rampant stereotyping and everything else. And here's just another example of why do we have to change something that's so important to us.
Why do they want it changed?
Well, you see that what these cities and towns and some states have done is they're saying it should be changed to Indigenous Peoples Day, and that's just a way to eliminate Western culture because Columbus brought Western culture to this part of the world. And listen, we got nothing against Indigenous people, but they've already got August 9th, the day after Thanksgiving, and the whole month of November. So changing Columbus Day is just a ruse. We want to be right alongside Indigenous people and celebrate with them, but don't take away our holiday. Don't pit groups against each other.
What did Columbus do when he arrived here in the Americas?
Well, on his first voyage, he was trying to get to India as a trade route, but he was also spreading Christianity. And when he got here, he thought he was in India. That's why he called them Indians. But nevertheless, after that, he realized that he was in a different part of the world, and he left the settlements here and then brought back 3 additional trips after that. One of his settlements was totally wiped out by the indigenous people, but he continued to persevere and connect the continents. And then after him, what occurred was all of the different travels that from conquistadors and other countries and so forth. And that's where a lot of the atrocities did occur. But it wasn't Columbus. In fact, Columbus really revered the indigenous people. There's actually one indigenous person that has written 4 books defending Columbus, and he can trace his heritage all the way back to the Taino tribe. So, this is really just unfortunately, people are just going through this indoctrination. It's just not correct.
Christopher Columbus himself, then, was not a brutal killer of a man?
No, quite the contrary. He was very friendly with the natives that he met here. In fact, he even adopted one as his own. He was honored by some of the chiefs that were here, and he actually defended the Taino tribe against the Carib tribe, who were cannibals killing Tainos. So, he was a friend of the indigenous people. Of course, not the cannibals, but the others, and he helped them. So he was really kind of the first, first person that was uniting the peoples as well.
Where did he die?
I believe he died in Genoa, his place of birth in Italy. Okay. He went back and forth on 4 voyages, but then he ended up back in Europe.
Boy, can you imagine what it must have been like in a time like that to travel like that?
Oh, it was months and months at sea with seeing nothing for all that time. His men wanted to revolt and mutiny because they were starving and so forth. But then they finally landed in Hispaniola, the small island. And for them, that was a tremendous accomplishment. Then he did it 3 more times. I mean, it was really just, like I said, it was like going to the moon.
Yeah, and he thought he was going to India. He missed by a million miles there, but opened up. But at that time, they thought that there was, India was all the way to the west, and they didn't know that there was a continent in between. And that's when the maps all changed. The world changed. So what are we supposed to do now? Can Indigenous Peoples Day share the day with Columbus Day? Would that make everybody happy, or they don't want the name Columbus mentioned at all? What do you do if you're Columbus, Ohio?
Columbus, Ohio, the District of Columbia, the Knights of Columbus. There's so many things that really honored Columbus. And you know what? Why do we have to share a day? No other group has to do that. The indigenous people have their days, August 9th and so forth. Let's celebrate with them. Leave Columbus Day for what it is, the great thing for Italian Americans and actually America. And we should not be fighting each other. We should look for harmony, and we should look for working together. And unfortunately, I'm always concerned that they're using this to pit groups against the other to maintain control, and it just shouldn't be done.
It sure does seem that even outside of Columbus Day, there's an element that wants us pitted against each other. They want us divided. They forget that we're all people. We're all brothers and sisters, ultimately, no matter what our skin color is or where we came from or what we believe or what we think. We don't have to be put into a category all the time, and everybody's not trying to offend somebody else all the time with this, that, or whatever. And history is what it is, and you can't erase it and you can't ignore it. And so there you have it. Where would be the best place to celebrate Columbus Day? Little Italy in New York?
Well, actually, the great parade that goes down Fifth Avenue is still the greatest parade anywhere. But yes, of course, all the Little Italies around the country will be celebrating, and there'll be parades in different places and so forth.
Grazie, Andre DiMino, Italian-American One Voice Coalition. Ciao.